A video documentary of an ethnic cleansing and weaponized starvation in Dankalia, Eritrea, as reported by EANC in year 2020. Ethnic discrimination, forcible displacement and systematic marginalization of the indigenous Afar people continues in Eritrea. At the height of the COVID pandemic in June 2020 in Asab, Eritrea, the Eritrean government blocked all access to the Afar population to access food, medical care, and international aid. To enforce its policy of ethnic cleansing against the Afar in Dankalia, the government of Eritrea ordered the closure of the sea coast to the Afar fishermen. Fishing boats were forced out of sea. Indigenous Afar camel caravans, traditionally known to transport critically needed food, were imprisoned and food items have been confiscated and burned. These actions by the Eritrean officials were not meant to prevent the spread of COVID virus but a systematic policy to clear the Afar population from the region's strategic coastal seacoasts. In March 2023, the United Nations Special Rapporteur in the situation of human rights in Eritrea, Dr. Mohamed Babikar, reported the disturbing situation of human rights of Afar people in Eritrea.
In my report, I highlight the situation of Eritrean Afar indigenous communities, one of the most disenfranchised communities in Eritrea. For decades, they have been subjected to discrimination, harassment, arbitrary detention, enforced disappearances, and interference with their traditional form of livelihood, threatening their way of life and their existence as an indigenous community.
The United Nations report investigated decades of racial discrimination against the indigenous Afar, destruction of their livelihoods as traditional fishermen, harassment, arbitrary arrests, disappearance, violence, and widespread persecution on ethnic grounds. Using the excuse of coronavirus disease, the government of Eritrea weaponized its displacement strategy against the Afar population in Eritrea. In this following June 1, 2020 video by Eritrean government-owned Eri TV, Eritrean officials can be seen burning food, items such as flour, sugar, oil, and other items captured from the Afar families in Asab, and critically needed food was set alight. The government of Eritrea, which claims to be a protector of ethnic diversity and equal opportunity provider, was caught red-handed with its blatant racial favoritism, providing assistance to one segment of Eritrean populations in the highlands of Eritrea while starving the Afar population of Dankalia.
ንነበርቲ ዝተፈላለዩ ንዞባታት ዞባ ማእከል ብምኽንያት ለበዳ ኮሮና ቫይረስ ኣብ ቤቶም ኮፍ ንዝበሉ ጽጉማት ወገናት ክወሃብ ዝጸንሐ ሓገዝ ይቕጽል ኣሎ። ኣብ ምምሕዳር ንዞባ ሰረጀኻ ካብ ጉዱሳት ወገናት ዝተወፈ 125,000 ነቕፋ እኽሊ ተዓዲጉ ን204 ጽጉማት
Eri TV shows that Eritrean officials can be seen assisting populations in the Tigrinya highlands of Madefura during the COVID pandemic, donating food, cash, and farm equipment such as tractors.
ሰሃጽን ኣብዝሃቦ ሓበሬታ ድማ ምስ ዘሎ ኩነታት ሕማም ኮሮና ሓረስቶት ካብ ከባቢኦም ከይረሓቑ ኣብ ምምሕዳር ከባቢኦም ጠለባት ብዘቕርብዎ መሰረት ኣገልግሎት ትራክተራት ማሕረስ ይረኽቡ ከም ዘለዉ ብምግላጽ እቶም ሓረስቶት ብዝወሃቦም ዘሎ ስሉጥ ኣገልግሎት ዕጉባት ኮይኖም ከም ዝረኸብዎም ሓቢሮም
ስራሕቲ በለስተ መቕለ ኮይኑ ኣብ ዘርእን ናብ ነቕልን ይዝርከብ ዘሎ
These policies of discrimination, systematic violence, and marginalization have forced tens of thousands of Eritrean Afar out of Eritrea. Many of those displaced are now found in Ethiopia, Djibouti, and Yemen. Prior to 1991, traditional Afar fishing was the single most economic livelihood and sustainable economic activity for the indigenous Afar in Eritrea. At one point, the Afar fishermen owned over 6,000 fishing boats, fishing nets, and various means to support the traditional Afar fishing economy in Eritrea. Unfortunately, after Eritrea gained its independence and the PFDJ government imposed severe restrictions on the movement of Afar fishermen and the coastal villages of Dankalia. Anyone who does not bribe or pay a percentage to the high-ranking Navy officials faces confiscation of fishing boats, and any fish caught was taken by Habti Bari, by the so-called Ministry of Sea Wealth. To enforce their illicit illegal activities, the Eritrean Navy generals established kangaroo courts in the southern Red Sea coast of Dankalia. Anyone who refused to play by the Navy General's rules is fined an exuberant amount of money, and those who fail to come up with the cash are thrown in jail forever. In the past several years, our team of lawyers have interviewed thousands of Afar fishermen who fled Eritrea into neighboring countries. The Afar people of Dankalia are self-sufficient and highly experienced fishermen in Eritrea. They have lived and survived on their traditional coastlines for over 5 millennia. They do not have any means to support their families other than farming in the sea. The Red Sea is their farmland, and the fishing boats are their farming equipment and tractors. The racial profiling and discriminatory policies by the Eritrean Navy have caused irreparable damage to the Afar culture and economy in Eritrea. All humanity and the international humanitarian law and human rights defenders must condemn Eritrea's genocidal policies aimed at displacing the indigenous Afar people from their homeland of Dankalia.
ربة ويدرتني رقعة مسكي الثاني